Welcome back to Project Talks with Ankit. If you're a PMP aspirant or a project professional, you will love today's topic. It's one of those tools that help you see the bigger picture in your project. Let's jump right in. Alright, quick heads up before we start. This is going to be a proper deep dive into PESTLE, not just a 5-minute summary. So, yeah, it is a bit long, but that's because we are covering everything you need step by step. By the end, you won't just know what PESTLE means, you will actually know how to use it in your project and even in PMP exam scenarios. So sit back, grab a copy if you want, and let's go through the masterclass together. Here, you will learn and understand why external environment matters, understanding project environments like internal, micro, macro, the 6 dimension of PESTLEs. We will also have a case study of Uber in India and a practical demo of building a PESTLE metrics in Excel. What are the variations of PESTLE that are used? Trust source for PESTLE inputs. Now, I also put in some common mistakes which you need to avoid. And finally, there will be a key takeaway and wrap up. So let's dive in. Alright. Think of a project where you are launching a brand new mobile app. The business case looks solid, the team is ready, and your project plan is in place. But here's the catch: success doesn't only depend on your scope, schedule, and budget. What if new government data privacy law affects how you store consumer data? Or inflation drives up development cost mid project? Maybe user behavior shifts towards short form content or a breakthrough technology like AI created new expectations. What if there are added legal compliances with the App Store and environmental pressure to reduce server energy consumption? And suddenly, your carefully planned app faces challenges from every angle. Now, this is where PESTLE analysis becomes crucial. It helps project managers scan the external environment to anticipate and plan for forces that could make or break the project. But before we even open up PESTLE, let's zoom out and talk about the different environments that affect project: internal, micro, and macro. This will give you right foundation to understand why PESTLE matters. Now, when we look at the environment that affects a project, it isn't just one big block, it has different layers. At the core, we have internal environment, things within our control like our project team, processes, budget, technology stacks. For example, in our mobile app project, our agile team, sprint planning, and budget allocation sits there. Around this lies micro external environment, the immediate marketplace, competitors, consumers, suppliers, partners. These directly influence how our app performs compared to others. For instance, a competitor offering a free premium trial is a micro factor. And finally, we have macro external environments, often analyzed through PESTLE. These are large uncontrollable forces like government data privacy laws or social trends pushing demand of AI based personalization or inflation raising developer cost, environmental or economic like currency exchange rate inflation. Let's understand this with one more example. So if your mobile app fails because of a poor sprint execution, that's internal. If it loses market share to a rival with better pricing, that's micro external. And if a new government law demands strict data compliance, that's macro external. As a project manager, you need to recognize which layer an issue belongs to and help us decide whether to fix, adapt, or anticipate. Now, PESTLE stands for 6 categories: political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Think of it as a 360-degree radar for spotting external factors that could impact our project. Let's break each one down using our app launch example. Political factors include politically moved inputs like policies, tax regulation, data protection laws, etc. Imagine the government as a referee for the game. They decide the rules. It can also be seen as a balanced scale. On the positive side, if policies support digital startups or offer incentives for health tech, that's like a power boost for our apps. But on the challenging side, a stricter rules around app approval or data regulation can slow us down. So the key takeaway, we need to keep scanning the political landscape, laws on data, technology and healthcare because they can either speed us up or put hurdles in our way. Now next is economic. Imagine money as a weather forecast for our business. A growing economy means more people spending, more customers downloading our app. But inflation or rising cost, that's like a sudden storm that could reduce user spending. So we track factors like growth rate, inflation, and customer purchasing power because they set the financial climate we operate in. Moving on to social. Think of this as a culture and lifestyle of our user. If the people become more health conscious, that's a tailwind pushing our app forward. But if the trend shifts and user prefer traditional methods over digital apps, it's like swimming against the current. By watching demographics, habits, and social trends, we can make sure our app stays relevant and loved. Okay, let's pause for a second. So far, we have covered political, economic, and social. Basically, the rules of the game, the money climate, and the people trends. Up next, we have tech, environmental, and legal. So let's keep going. Next comes technological. Imagine technology as an engine of our car. New innovation like AI, wearables, or cloud solution are like turbo boosters that help us grow faster. But if we ignore them, we risk being stuck in the slow lane while others zoom ahead. That is why scanning the tech landscape is crucial. So we can adopt the right tool and keep our app future ready. So we need to track new tools, framework, and even competitors' tech choices very closely. Now let's talk about legal factors. These are the rules of the road for our project. On the positive side, strong data protection laws like GDPR or India's DPDP Act can actually build user trust. Consumers feel safe sharing their data with us. On the negative side, missing compliance or overlooking a new regulation can cause heavy fines, delays, or even worse, a reputational damage. Can you recall a project where a sudden legal requirement forced you to change course? Type it in the comments. You will be surprised how many people have faced the same challenges as you. And finally, let's cover environmental factors. These are becoming more relevant even in digital projects. You might think, what does environment have to do with an app? But it does. On the positive side, aligning with sustainability like using green data centers or highlighting eco friendly practices can boost your brand image and attract conscious customers. But on the negative side, ignoring sustainability can backfire. For example, criticism over high energy usage or wasteful practices can hurt brand reputation. Now, here's a quick thought experiment for you. If you had to pitch your project to an investor today, how would you show it supports sustainability? Think about it, because that question is coming up more and more often in the boardrooms. Now, theory is great, but it really clicks when you see it in action. So, let's take a real world case. Let's talk about Uber's journey in India and break it through the PESTLE lens. Now, politically, they faced constant debate with regulators on licensing and passenger safety. Economically, their growth was fueled by rising disposable income in metro cities, making app based rides affordable for more people. Socially, Lifestyles were changing. People preferred the convenience of booking a cab through an app rather than hailing one on the street. Now, technologically, the timing was just perfect. Smartphones, GPS, and online payments made their model possible. Legally, well, here they struggle with compliance on driver verification and safety norms. We all remember the controversies in the early years, right? And environmentally, as India pushed for EV adoption, Uber has started pilot programs with electric vehicles to align with sustainability goals. So you see, all six PESTLE factors shaped Uber's path in India. Some boosted their growth, others slowed them down, but none could be ignored. You have now seen PESTLE work in real world, but how do we actually capture it and use it in a project? Let me show you a simple Excel format that project managers often use to make PESTLE analysis actionable. Let's get right into it. Now let's see. Okay, so this is how it looks in Excel. We have factors, examples, probability, impact, action plan, assigned owner, and what is the status right now. Let's look at one or two of them. You can pause it, take a screenshot, and understand it in detail later as well. Let's see. Now, under political, Uber faced constant regulatory debates around the licensing and safety. Probability and impact were both high. So, the action plan was to engage regulators proactively. Public affairs were the owner, and it's an ongoing thing. Now, on the economic side, rising disposable income in India, metro cities actually fueled Uber's growth. That's why it is high probability and high impact. And the strategy team doubled down on expansion. Let's do one more. Socially, lifestyles were changing. People wanted the convenience of app based rides. That too was high probability and high impact. So, marketing team campaigns highlighted convenience and safety. So, you see, the Excel table makes PESTLE analysis practical. It is not just a theory slide. You can log risk, opportunities, assign owners, and track actions over time. So, how does this tie back to project management? It can impact on our scope, schedule, risk, and stakeholders. Let me explain. Now, political and legal affects compliance and approvals. Economic and social impacts our business case and adoption rate. And technology or environment shapes our design and long term sustainability. By mapping these to our scope, risk plan, and stakeholder strategy, PESTLE becomes a real decision making tool, not just another buzzword. Now you can see how many external forces might affect your mobile app project. But here's an interesting part. PESTLE isn't the only version out there. Different industries add or remove factors depending on what's more crucial to them. That is why PESTLE has several variations, each giving project managers slightly different lens to analyze risk and opportunities. I think it will be better if I explain this in a tabular form. You can watch it, pause it, and give some more time to grasp it. Let's just quickly get into that. All right, let's see. So we have the framework, what factors it includes, extra dimensions that it includes, and where to use it. Let me go through few of them for you. Now, PEST has political, economic, social, and technology, which is quick, high level scan of external factors. Now, PESTLE or PESTLE, political, economic, social, technology, legal, and environment, the one that we have discussed. It has legal plus environment, which is the most common version that we have. Now we have STEEPLE, which is social, technology, economic, environmental, political, legal, and ethical. Now it has an extra dimension, ethics. Now it talks about when corporate governance, CSR, or ethics are critical. Steepled: social, technological, economic, environmental, political, legal, ethical, and demographic. It has ethics and demographics on top of it. Used for projects targeting specific age or cultural groups. Same is with LEPEST, which is in a different order, SLEPT, which is more simplified, and PESTLed, which has international and demographics as extra. You can pause it and try to check it more or take a screenshot. So, as a project manager, the key takeaway isn't just knowing what PESTLE stands for, it is knowing which version best fits your project context. If you're launching a simple app in one market, the classic PESTLE works. But if ethics or demographics plays a big role, then steepled or steeple are more relevant. Similarly, if you're expanding globally, pestled gives us a sharper edge. The framework itself is flexible. The real skill lies in choosing the right lens so we can anticipate challenges and align our project strategy with the bigger environment. Now, to make pestle analysis meaningful, the real question is, where does all this information actually comes from? Because if our inputs are weak, our entire analysis can fall apart. That's why project managers rely on trusted, credible sources instead of guesswork. Now, you might be thinking, where do we actually get all this pestle information from? Don't worry, we don't just pull it out of thin air. We have some reliable go to sources. Let me pull this in a table for you. Here's a list of trusted sources. Now, obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but you get the idea from this. Say for the political factors, we go to government portals or policy think tanks or WTO. For economics, we go to IMF, World Bank, Central Bank, or Bloomberg. Social, definitely not from Instagram. Census data, Nielsen, Pew Research. Technology, Gartner, IEEE, MIT Tech Review, or Patent Database. For legal, we go to GDPR or DPDP Act, PwC Deloitte Legal Updates. For environmental, you can go to IPCC, US EPA, CPCB, etc. You can take a screenshot of this if you want to. Now, before we wrap up, let's quickly look at some common mistakes people make with PESTLE. First, they treat it as a one time exercise. In reality, the external environment keeps changing, right? So your pestle should be updated throughout the project life cycle. Second, some confuse it with competitor analysis. Remember, competitors are micro external factors, while pestle is about macro environment. Third, people often just list factors but never connect them with probability, impact, or an action plan. Remember the Excel that we saw, right? Now, without that, PESTLE becomes just theory. And finally, team forgets to revisit PESTLE when big external shift happens, like a new law or a tech breakthrough. That's when PESTLE is most valuable. All right, let's wrap up with some key takeaways. Now, PESTLE gives you 360-degree view of external factors. It is not about predicting the future, but preparing for it. And always connect PESTLE findings back to your PMP process, especially risk management, stakeholder engagement. Do this, and your project will be way better prepared for any surprises. And that's it for PESTLE analysis with our mobile app launch example. I know many of you will still have specific questions. Please drop your questions in the comment box and I'll answer them. If need be, I'll make another video on FAQs. If you found this useful, hit like and subscribe. And in the next video, we will break down another tool that will help project managers stay ahead of their game. Thank you so much, everyone.